All right, and welcome back. And would like to just have a conversation regarding the current food crisis that we have. And looking at that story by Ken Aseka. Joining me now in studio is Odipo Gerfas, who is an agripreneur. And I assume that is a farmer who's basically looking at also turning this into a business and making money out of it.
Yes.
Welcome into the studio.
Thank you, sir.
And we currently have a crisis. And I think you were in as we were having the hot debates that we had here earlier on with politicians. And this sometimes becomes the problem when everything is clouded with so much politics that we cannot get the facts.
Yes.
Now, you are on the ground. You're one who basically is in touch with what's happening in the farms and also what's happening once you get to the shops, to to the millers and ultimately to the till where we are now going to buy the flour. Where is the problem? Is it a supply issue? Is it that a planning issue? Where is the problem?
Well, actually, we can't really point out and say that this is one thing is the problem, but it's a combination of various factors. And these factors stem from preparedness of the farmers and education of the farmers. It's rather unfortunate that in Kenya, what happens when it comes to agriculture is that most people view agriculture as what it is. And this one stems up back from the time of the 844 system, where the mentality that we had of agriculture was really not something that someone can do as
to make money.
To make
and I think
good money.
Traditionally, agriculture was left to those who possibly have done their work in the city, they've retired,
and then now
you go and do agriculture.
But so you see, that is the mental state that many people actually have, in the sense that when you think agriculture, you think of Shosho, and you think of Kuhu and Kuka, and all those people of that particular generation. So it starts from the point of people being educated and knowing that agriculture can be merged and actually becomes a business. Hence, therefore, the terms like agripreneur, agribusiness, and it starts from there. Then secondly, it also comes down to the point of conventional thinking, or rather conventional ways of doing agriculture. It's rather unfortunate that in a country that is blessed as Kenya is, we still rely on the conventional ways of doing agriculture or doing agribusiness. This is the rain-fed kind of agriculture. Whereas you find that someone from various countries, be it Israel or these countries that have very poor rainfall but do extremely good in agriculture, they come to Kenya and are shocked that we can actually have things like farming. Because they really do not understand how can you have farming, yet your land is so blessed. You people have rain. Kenya is one of the few countries that you can actually grow something January to January, which is very, very interesting.
Right.
So basically, implementing some modern ways of doing agriculture, as someone had mentioned, there was someone in this panel who had mentioned that, which is very,
it was
very key.
Mr. Obiro who mentioned that
right?
there needs to be a paradigm shift in how we view agriculture and how we do agriculture. And just tying into what you're saying, you'll realize that majority of our farms, especially the small-scale farmers, are still into very traditional ways of farming.
Yes.
Is that something that needs to change?
Well, yes, it needs to change in the sense that you might find that there are some people, and in some areas, they only know of certain crops.
Which are planted at
certain times.
Yeah.
So you'll find in the market there's a glut. The other day I was talking to a fellow young person in agriculture, and they were telling me something very interesting. They were telling me how they were planting potatoes, okay? And in that particular area, they all plant potatoes, cumulatively about 1,000 acres, okay? And she was telling me how she's actually quitting the business. And I asked why. She said, because brokers are really messing up the market. They come and they give us very bad prices and whatnot and all that. And I just thought, so if everyone, and 50 of your neighbors are planting potatoes, and potatoes grow very well in that particular area, what else grows well in that particular region that you can able to grow, so that when other people are growing potatoes, you do something different, and you'll actually be the only one. And the shocking thing for me is that she had never thought about that, literally ever.
And what would create that gap? Is it just a lack of imagination? Is it just a lack of education? Is it a lack of possibly having the necessary seeds for whatever else would grow?
It's actually a matter of know-how and proper research. For instance, before you start any business, there's some due diligence that is actually done that is quite proper. When someone is starting a studio, when someone wants to start a pharmacy or wants to get into the entertainment business, for any good business practice, the Business 101 or Business for Dummies 009 states that do your due diligence in relation to that particular business.
Your feasibility studies.
Yes, exactly. And unfortunately, for some of us, we learned it the hard way. But the correct way to actually do it is go do your feasibility study, understand that business, understand the value chain in that business and how you can be able to benefit from that particular business, and then innovate. Just be innovative in relation to that which you choose to do when it comes to things now like agriculture. Most people get into agriculture and do what has always been done, how it has always been done. There's zero innovation when it comes to those particular practices and how people ought to benefit properly when it comes to agriculture. Because you might find someone has very good seed, very good land, very good water, and very diligent workers. But when it comes to harvest, the problem now becomes, brokers, transportation, and various factors here and there. But at the end of the day, when you think about it, one of the challenges I love posing is, how many farmers do you know who do direct value addition? They take their produce from point A, and then they do value addition.
If it's packaging,
if it's
or
packaging or what,
packet,
something, and then taking it directly to the market. Most farmers usually tell me that is a lot of work. That's too much work, man. You know. But at the end of the day, they expect their product to be sold to the end user, and they actually have the capacity and ability to be able to bypass all these impediments and middlemen that are here and take the product directly to their consumer. So these are just some of the practices that many of the people who are getting into agriculture need to learn and understand, because it is key for them in order to start profiting from it.
All right, now one of the panelists we had here earlier on, Professor Michael Wainaina, mentioned, and maybe I want to hear from you if it is true, that first of all, agriculture is a multi-billion industry. And it is one, we have land in Kenya.
Yeah.
We have very many unemployed young people,
Yes.
and even some older, who basically could venture into agriculture. But because of what we were talking about earlier on, the mind frame, the mindset that agriculture is for the uneducated, perhaps, or for those who've possibly retired, how can we rejuvenate the agriculture sector to, first of all, infuse all these people, use the land that we have, and tap into the billions that are there?
Well, yes, it is a multi-billion dollar industry, even in Kenya. An example I love using over and over again, and I find it very fascinating, is Smith's Corona. There was a company called Smith's Corona once upon a time, and Smith's Corona used to make typewriters, and they were the Apple of typewriters. Yes, them days, okay? And when Smith's Corona used to do launches for their various typewriters, the latest typewriters at that particular time, they had a very big launch, and people celebrated the launch, and people ate, okay? Now, 50, 60 years down the line, we have mobile phones, and something like, let's say, Nokia or Microsoft. When they launch a new product, they always have a celebration after, and they always have a party because of the celebration, okay? What is the common trait between these two particular scenarios? Is that both have parties, both have food, okay? 50 years ago, food was relevant, farming was relevant. 50 years on, food is relevant, and parties are relevant as well, okay? Chances are that 50 years from now, when we are launching Samsung 32, okay? They will have a launch, they will have a big party, and they will have food, okay? So that's why it is a multi-billion industry. As you said, people have to eat, one. Then secondly, the transformation needs to happen in the minds of, I would say, the youth right now, because these are the people who will be the farmers for 20 years from now. These are the people who will be producing food 30 years from now. These are the people who will be producing food 20 years from now, okay? The transformation of what agriculture is needs to shift, because you can imagine, like, for someone like me who went through the whole entire 844 system, you can imagine the mentality of agriculture that I had. And to be able to change that mentality, it will take quite a bit. So in relation to educating the people or the young people who are getting into agriculture right now on what farming can actually be, the potential that it actually has. That is very, very important. That is extremely key. The other thing is all about, and this one is actually very key, is all about mentoring when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to agribusiness, okay? It is as important as it can get for the people getting into agribusiness, people getting into agriculture, to learn and understand the value of tapping into the people whose immediate future is the past, whose immediate past is the future that you're actually getting into. That is actually very key. So at the end of the day, when all those things are put into play, we will, 20, 30 years from now, we will be able to very easily avert the situations that we have right now. It's very unfortunate that you hear about maize prices, sugar going up and whatnot, and yet we're in a country that is more blessed than many others who are not even facing the situation that we're in.
Right. Okay. And maybe as we're closing, the government has promised that through legislation, maybe in Parliament, there's going to be a drop of prices. You're a farmer. Is that a practical solution that they have there? Very briefly.
A drop in prices in relation to?
What we have, Unga prices and milk and all that.
Yeah, for me, it all stems down to the how. How are you going to do it? But one thing I would actually strongly advocate for is the policies are good, okay? And farming, if there's one thing farming is not theory. Far from it. Farming is practical, okay? What would help more is, again, I think most of the things that are coming out that are lacking is the proper education in terms of farmers and how they can be able to connect directly to market. You know, farmers and how valuable the product is and how they can be able to come together into cohorts and be able to do a value addition system that can be able to benefit the end user directly.
Okay.
You would actually be surprised the price of Unga and the price of various commodities, how they would drop drastically if farmers were actually empowered to be able to take their product directly to the end user.
To the end user.
Yes.
We'll have to wind up because of time. Thank you very much, Odipo Gerfas there, an agripreneur. And, well, I guess there's hope at the end, light at the end of the tunnel.
There is.
There is.
There is.
All right, and well, that's where we will wind up this particular interview. And also, we're coming to the tail end of the show. And at this point, I'd just like to remind us of the question of the day. And this is in relation to the voter verification exercise that was launched yesterday by the IEBC. And as a result, it begins today for the next 30 days. We have them basically verifying your vote. And you are welcome to go and check whether your vote is valid. And the question we've been asking this morning is as to whether you are confident IEBC will have a clean voter register before the August election. And I'd just like to go through some of the comments that have been coming through as we have been going on with the show. And allow me to just read some of them as we carry on. And I'll start with one by Lisi One, who says, well, a straight no. She does not believe that there is going to be a clean register. And let me see, we also have Eric Oma, who says we have moved a notch higher from days of ECK. Some level of confidence has been restored with the commission. Maybe I'll read one more. And this is, I think, in relation to the debate that we had, the hot debate that we had here earlier on. And somebody says the professor is making lots of sense in his credible remarks. Kind of leaders. All right. One more. I'm in doubt of this Chebukati thing. Only God knows. So in terms of confidence, whether Kenyans have confidence that the IEBC will be ready and that the voter register will be credible remains to be seen. So for now, this is where we wind up Morning Express, and I'd like to wish you all a fantastic and a wonderful day, and from a great team that ensures that this program comes to you every single day, Monday to Friday, live from 5 a.m. We say a big thank you for being part of the show and for contributing, whether by watching or by sending your comments or calling. We appreciate. Have yourselves a wonderful day, but do stay with us right here on KTN News. Shortly, I'll be with you just to give you a trip round the world in 60 minutes, and that'll be Worldview. So we'll be back shortly.